Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about consciousness. Um, if you remember from last few lectures, we defined sensation as our sense organs capturing sensory information. It can be vision or any other senses. And we define perception as interpreting or identifying parts of sensory information. And we also said that attention falls between sensation and perception. Now, attention means several things, and it's beyond the scope of this lecture to talk about all aspects of it. But we're going to talk about very specific aspects of it, and we're going to talk about attention basically, but in terms of the word we're going to use is consciousness. But just keep in mind, it's about attention that we're talking about. Now, what is consciousness? Well, a question that can kind of think about consciousness is, what are you doing now? Are you aware of what you're doing now? Whatever we are aware of at any given point of time can be understood as consciousness. So if you're reading something, and hopefully you're trying your best to pay attention to what you're reading, then you're aware of the information that you're processing. Let's say you're watching a movie, then at that time you are aware of the events described or unfolded in the movie you're watching. Or if you're reading a novel, then you are again going through this process of being aware of the events described in the novel you're reading. So consciousness can be interpreted or understood in the context of being aware or related to awareness. We are either aware or unaware of things. But consciousness is not such a simple construct where you can say either you're conscious or unconscious. There are different levels of consciousness. You can be really aware of the things at any given point of time, or you may be drifting your awareness from one point to another, or you may be actually trying to be aware of two or more things at a given point of time. Now, we're going to talk about different states of consciousness in this video. And in the subsequent video, we're going to talk about a specific state of not consciousness, you may say unconsciousness. We're talking about sleep and what happens during sleep, especially we're going to talk also about the dreams. Now, when you look at the history of this construct called consciousness, the first person to talk about this is William James. And he defined consciousness not as a fixed state of mind, rather as a continuing state of mind where your thoughts are, it's a stream of thoughts and these are connected. What it means is that our consciousness is not static. It is dynamic. It changes moment to moment, and our consciousness is not like these bits and pieces of our states, and you can define consciousness as a sum of these bits and pieces. So in other words, William James, if you remember William James, I'm going to leave it to you. Who is William James? Think about it. Now, so the current view of consciousness is kind of related to the William James idea of consciousness, which is it's not a steady state, but a continuously changing state of mind or thought. Our current view is consciousness is defined as a state of awareness of yourself or awareness of surroundings. And it is a state that is not fixed and it changes. And we're going to talk about states of consciousness. And I'm going to pause here. Okay, so first we're going to talk about states of consciousness. And The first state of consciousness, the three stages, or you may say four, depending on how you define it. The first state of consciousness is focused attention. Focused attention is, or focused awareness, excuse me, is when you selectively attend to a part of the information and filter everything else. Remember, now you're listening to me and maybe a friend sitting next to you or in a different room is trying to talk to you, but you're trying to filter that information out and selectively attending to, hopefully, to the information that you're hearing from this particular video lecture. Now, that capacity is selective attention and being aware of just one information at any given point of time by filtering out the unwanted information is called focused awareness. Now, we usually do that, especially when, hopefully, when you're trying to prepare for exams or you're trying to learn something new, or for example, you're learning a new skill. It requires a lot of focused attention. Now, how often do you how often do you do this focused awareness? It's resource demanding. You have to consciously be focusing on one and filtering out the other information. And it's not same possible, but it's not it's not productive if you are continuously aware, focus aware for like, I don't know, for 24 hours or 18 hours a day. We all go through focused awareness stages, maybe when you're in a class or preparing for exams, but it changes. It changes. So that brings us to the second state of consciousness called drifted consciousness. Drifted consciousness is this stage, especially when you're bored, you're aware of one thing at a point, then your awareness shifts to something else, then to something else, and moves on and on and on. This is called drifted consciousness. So your consciousness moves from one point to another. I know what you're thinking. Sometimes you daydream in a class. That's one example of drifted consciousness. Now, usually it happens when you are, let's say, bored, or you are doing some things that are not structured. Let's say you're waiting for a bus at the bus station, and things like those where you're not interested in stuff. Usually you go through this shift in consciousness, and we call that drifted consciousness. And this is exactly opposite to focused awareness. In focused awareness, you're consciously trying and making yourself aware of one thing, the thing that's most important to you. Now, research suggests that people who live in the moment, they're more happy or happier than people who experience more drifted consciousness at any given during the day. So one way you can inculcate this habit of paying more attention to and experiencing more of focused awareness is trying to do meditation or some sort of mindful meditation exercise. Your mind gets trained to be in the moment. And research suggests that people who live in the moment are happier than people who daydream. And drifted consciousness also inversely or negatively influences your performance in class. For example, you're sitting in a class and you're talking about stuff, you're listening to a lecture, and then you drift. You change your attention from the topic to whatever is being whatever comes to your mind. Maybe the dinner tonight, or the party the day after, or an emotional thing that's going on in your life. Obviously, you won't be able to learn as much of information in your different consciousness state, as opposed to if you are focused, aware of the lecture that you are attending at any given point of time. Now, that brings us to the third state of consciousness. This is called divided consciousness. Divided consciousness is you can call it multitasking. It's a state where you're trying to be aware of two things or more things at any given point of time. And keep in mind, our attentional resources are very limited. You can be aware of only one thing at a time, but the moment you try to be aware of two or more things at a point, at any given point of time, what you're basically doing is you're trying to divide your attention or resources to things, and that's not technically possible or practically possible. One or the other task will suffer. For example, if you're driving, it needs attentional resources, and you're trying to text, it also needs attentional resources. If you're trying to do this both at the same time, one has to suffer. And I know you don't want to let the text go wrong, so it's usually the driving that suffers and will hurt you or anybody else who is sitting next to you or driving in another car. So, and that phenomenon where you are unaware of things related to one task when you're concentrating your effort in another task or trying to divide your consciousness between two tasks is called inattentional blindness. So you're trying to text and drive, but at any given point of time you can only do one, and you're trying to text, you miss the thing that's on the road. Or you're driving a car, your baby is sitting in the back seat and you're trying to attend to her, then you're missing the thing on the road. So divided attention is a myth. I mean to say multitasking is a myth, and you cannot divide attention and do two things at the same time. It usually happens when the two tasks you're doing are demanding, but one feels like so mechanical, so routine that you think you can do without a lot of resources. So you're driving, it's so mechanical, you've done it so often that you think of other things, like you may daydream or try to do texting, so doing multiple at the same time. Research also suggests that when you're in a phone, even hands-free phone, and talking to somebody, trying to divide your attention between driving and talking on phone, that is dangerous. It's not better than just holding a phone. It's not about physically holding something that needs attention, but it is keeping the conversation on requires you to use your attentional resources. That's why even hands-free driving is not a good thing. But it's okay to listen to music because it's not resource demanding, and you're not doing a particular task or a goal of trying to write the lyrics or remember the lyrics or whatever it is. Even talking to a person who is sitting next to you is fine, better than talking to somebody on phone, because the person who is sitting next to you can gauge and interpret and evaluate the road conditions and talk to you or expect you to talk only when the situations are better in terms of traffic or the conditions. So don't drive and text. Now, the altered state of consciousness, you can think of it as a state of consciousness, but it is altered, and we can talk about specifically its change. It can be changed. For example, you're thinking, you're doing meditation or hypnosis or taking a chemical like drugs. Things like these fall under altered states of consciousness, and we'll talk more about this towards the end. For now, we're going to stop here, and in the next video, we'll talk about the states of unconsciousness, where we'll talk about sleep and we'll talk about dreams.